Recording in progress.
Okay, we'll call the West Haven's Special City Council meeting for today, May 26, 2022. It's about 5:03 p.m. and we're here in the council chambers, and we're going to start out, if we can, by having our, I guess better get the right one here, our opening ceremonies. We'll have our Pledge of Allegiance by Councilmember Call and our moment of prayer and moment of silence, or a moment of silence with Councilmember Saunders.
Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd just like to just share a quick thought that God shapes the world by prayer. The more praying there is in the world, the better the world will be, and the mightier the forces against evil. And that's a quote by Mother Teresa. And in light of this week's tragic events, I'd ask that anyone here and anyone join us online, just join us for a moment of silence in honor of those victims of this tragic event and their families. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Call and Councilmember Saunders, for the opening ceremonies. We appreciate that. We'll move forward on our agenda. We're going to, if it's all right with the council, unless there's any opposition, we'll move our item number 5 up to our item number 3, and that will be our discussion and possible action on approval of street plat dedication for 4700 West and Green Farms subdivision for Nielsen Homes. I think we have a representative here, right?
Yeah, Jake Jones, South Ogden, Utah, representing Nielsen Homes.
Thank you.
Yep. Yeah. Go ahead, unless you wanted me to go.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so this is just the road connecting out to 4700 West, actually. So it's the 3675 South, and it's mostly for fire, but also for secondary access for residents. So we just want to get going. So instead of doing the full parcel plan with everything else going on in that parcel, we decided to just come in for a road dedication plat so we could get started. So happy to answer any questions that anybody has.
Okay, thank you. Council, you have any questions?
I don't really have any questions.
Do you know about when it will be completed?
Yeah, and that's a good question. We have it slated for probably 2 months for the vast majority. We are still working with UDOT on some of the improvements that have to go along 4700. So in terms of, the vast majority will be done in 2 months, and then the UDOT portion will be done shortly thereafter.
So is it just a 2-lane, or is there a turn in either one?
Yeah, there'll be a turn in. It's a 2-lane going out, but then coming in, we'll have to put in a right turn lane.
From 47?
Yep.
Okay.
And possibly a left turn as well. So, good questions.
Any other questions, council? This is for discussion discussion or possible action, so we can make a motion if you'd like.
I have to borrow. I move that we accept the approval of the street plat dedication for 4700 West and Green Farms subdivision, Nielsen Homes.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Is this is completed, then the, like, Ryan and Randy's road will be closed?
That's the goal, is as we complete this one, that road would be terminated and they would be allowed to build another lot there. I'm not quite sure the timing on that one, but this road is required in order for us to close that other one.
Right. And you said you were gonna be done when?
Well, we'll be done with the vast majority in 2 months, but we'll probably have to do some work on the canal, and they won't allow that till the fall. So it'll probably be late this year that we would actually be fully done, and then able to actually close that road off if that's the route we go at that point.
So upon the completion of the road, we'll dead end that that road at the same time?
And I don't know that it would be the same time. That's still,
Why wouldn't it be?
I don't know. Actually, that's a good question. I think
So Matt said it was a goal, but I
Yeah.
know it's supposed to be, so
I mean,
that would be part of the motion for
it-
me?
well, the plat is just to accept the plat so they can continue on it, but I would for consideration, all we'd have to do is put some Jersey barricaders up there to terminate that road. Kind of similar as they did early in the process on the construction, and just dead into that road past the water sewer building, so.
Is there any discussion in the MDA discussions you're having with Green Farms currently?
Oh, the lot, they are going to develop the lot. We didn't have a time frame on that. Anticipated that would be taken care of very quickly, though. So I have no problem on saying, hey, we're going to terminate that road with the completion of this other road.
and from our perspective,
That's the goal, and that's the intent of this, is to get them the fire access so we can terminate that road.
And from our perspective, we're motivated to sell that lot too. So
Yeah.
so we don't have any problem with, once we have full access, then turning that into a lot. So
So do you want me to amend the motion?
I'd like to ask a question.
Oh, there you are, Nina.
Yeah, before you make a motion or amend your motion. So you say that it'll take about 2 months, but when do you plan to start the actual construction of the road?
we actually have our contractor scheduled to go out there next week to start grading. So assuming everything goes well, then we'd start next week and have our pre-con. And yeah, so really next week or as soon as we can get a pre-con. So he's ready. We're ready. He's ready. So as soon as we can, yeah.
Any other discussion?
So if I amend a motion, we need to do something with the motion on the table, or?
It's up to the council if they want to amend it.
I think it wouldn't hurt, so.
Okay, I propose that we amend the motion previously seconded, that we approve the street plat dedication for 4700 West in Green Farms subdivision, understanding that is there an address on that road, or
On the dead end road,
gonna close?
there is an address here. I can pull it up. I don't have it off the top of my head. Looks to me like it's 4450 West.
Okay, I'll go back one more time. I propose that we approve the street plat dedication for 4700 West in Green Farms, understanding that at the time this is completed, 4450
Yes.
West will be closed down.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, we'll move back up to item number 3, action on resolution 13, 2022 for Cobble Creek subdivision open space and slash trails for $225,000.
So this is the agreement, Mayor and Council, that was made early part of 2021 in the purchase of 3.9 acres of the north end of the Cobble Creek subdivision. We anticipate being able to put a trail there and having that space kept in as open space. Hopefully lease it out for pasture, or just keep it in kind of a primitive state, so for the enjoyment of our residents. The $225,000 was based on an agreed amount that we've had a hearing on to use for our park impact fees. There is some residual just closing fees in the amount of about $1,500 that will be finalized, mainly part of the tax payment that was part of that initial agreement that we made on that.
So this is just officially doing it.
This was, yes, it is to officially do it. We had the agreement that after it was platted that we would do that. Their platting just took about 6-7 months longer than they had anticipated, and so we're now to the point where we can receive this and take it and then put it as part of our inventory.
Cool.
I think we had a change of ownership as well.
Yes.
So does it just go to West Haven? What does the ownership say?
So it'll go to the West Haven City. We'll own that parcel 1 there, and so it'll be part of our parks and trails infrastructure.
Got it.
So it doesn't go to Matt Jensen.
No, it doesn't go to Matt Jensen. It is a pretty stretch of land, though.
Okay. Any other discussion on that or questions?
Were there any concerns that you remember from the earlier meeting, or is this pretty much
No,
unanimous?
the council, I believe it was unanimous as we did it. I believe so. I didn't check that record on that. We do have an easement for water, significant right-of-way along the west side, where we're just trails and open space that really doesn't impact us. And we aren't directly connected to Windsor Park at this time. We do have, as we secure this property, then we'll enter into discussions with the property owners to the east, which is something that we budgeted for the 22-23 budget.
This is one of the first pieces. This is the first piece where we proactively went out and purchased land in front of what was coming rather than wait and try to clean up after. So we were pretty all in favor of this.
Okay.
Matt, do we still have access to the property through one of the lots?
Yes, this property, we will have access on the east side for right now. Once they finish it, we'll have a lane that goes through kind of center on the lot. We could have access to it from the property to the east as well.
Yeah, I just want to make sure with a new owner, I guess.
Yeah.
Make sure everything's still.
Yeah, part of the...
And is there a slough that runs along this? Is that?
There's a slough that runs through it. The Buttermilk Slough runs through it, so we want to have access to be able to get through. And with the development of the subdivision, we have an access path to it, which will be a trail, but wide enough for vehicles to access for maintenance and such.
Any other questions? I'm open for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 13, 2022 for the Cobble Creek subdivision, open space trails in the amount of $225,000.
Okay, a motion, second.
Second.
A motion and a second, and we'll do a roll call on this particular one. Councilmember Call.
Aye.
Councilmember Saunders.
Aye.
Councilmember, let's see, let's do, Ryan's just coming in. He doesn't probably have that up to par, so. Councilmember Morse
Aye.
and Councilmember Dixon.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes, and thanks, Matt, for your work on this. I'm hoping that we can get this up and running and get something moving on this property, do something with it, at least down the road. Excited for the city on this one. Okay, very good. We'll move on to our next item on here. Councilmember Schwab, let's see, item number 4. We'll have a discussion and possible action on consideration for an audit on personal compensation and benefits. And we'll turn the time over to Matt on this one.
Yeah, I asked for this to be put on last Thursday. Councilmember Swap, after our meetings, had sent out a request to for additional information for consideration of the COLA and the merit increases. And the request that he gave was fairly comprehensive and in-depth, and it kind of it took it up to a point of what was the equal of a council requested audit. And as such, that's a little bit more than just informational inquiries that we have. And so I just wanted to make sure it was kind of official, that we kind of set out specific parameters if this was something that the entire council wanted to do, and prepare that information for the council's review. There are some things that as we go through back and forth on these kind of things that are kind of protected under just employment and public employment kind of sector kind of things. Certain things like what level of health insurance specific employees subscribe to, that's not privy. And so those kind of things, we can give you the rates for single, married, family, but saying who has what, that would be one thing that we wouldn't be able to provide directly to the council, just for, I don't know if it's HIPAA laws, but it's employment.
Somewhat.
Well, it's
the
a
same.
protected record under grandma. So, I mean, yeah, there's HIPAA, but it's really, you don't want to have that out there because somebody could do a grandma request and get a hold of it, and it's a protected record, much like certain elements of their employment files. We can't release those because we don't want it, that's not public information.
So this will be separate from looking at the evaluation process, correct? Or would we add that to this?
That's a question, and I'd love to have Councilmember Swap kind of chime in on that, is just, one of the things that I proposed was to formulate a small committee that we could review and go through these processes, formulate some of those more in depth over the next year. And so I would anticipate providing this information to that committee would be one of the first steps. And then as a committee, they could look at it as a committee without making it an open meeting where all this information would be then open meeting record. And so just the intent and the direction of where the council would like to lead on that is one of the reasons why I wanted to have this discussion.
So we don't have to state that up front, but it's something that will be added later on? Is that how I understand what you just said?
Well, right now, I'd be
Compensation,
providing all
right.
this information to the council,
Okay,
which would be a public record.
Okay.
If we did it as a committee, they can review those items privily and then bring recommendations
Okay.
on processes
Got it.
to the public meeting.
okay. Thank you.
Does that work, though, for what you were after, Councilmember Swap? I mean, because it seems like if we do it that way, then we're kind of pushing it down the road, aren't we, Matt?
Correct, I think we would
And
be.
you're trying to, I think, if I read into your email right, review that prior to actually approving the budget.
Correct,
Oh,
correct.
I don't necessarily agree with trying to get it done before June 15th.
So if I can share my thought on why I sent that email. I'm new to the city, and I don't have any record of the employees within the city as far as their merit, how long they've been with us. I don't know where they are as far as market standards on their wages and their benefits. And I still agree that provided that they are in the correct category as far as where other cities are, that a COLA raise is something that we should do. So I had a couple residents reach out to me, and they brought question onto the employees of the city, and if there was anybody that was receiving COLA raises and merit raises over the past few years that probably didn't deserve that. So to go blanket cost 3 to 7% increase, and to find out that we gave a merit raise to everybody last year, I think that was a little tough for me to comprehend. So just trying to dive into where everybody was, the true cost of the employee with the insurance increases each year that the city is picking up, plus this 3 to 7% depending on where they are on their wages. So that was something I wanted to evaluate before I finalized. that 3 to 7%.
So this is new territory for me because I don't think any of us have known this. I mean, because we've been doing this in a different way. I'm not sure how much of the information, I mean, I would hate to have somebody share my evaluation with the public, when I was working. So my view on this would be that we go with what we've already approved in the preliminary budget, and then we take a look at this for next year. I think trying to do it now and do a good job of it would be, I'm not going to say counterproductive, but I don't think I'm willing to go back into that this year, but that's just my opinion.
So the other question that I asked and Matt brought light to is the policies that govern whether Matt can give a COLA or a merit raise are kind of vague. And that's something I think that we ought to strengthen up.
And I totally agree. I totally agree that that should be done. My reservation is trying to get it done before June 15th.
Okay. So I think there are ways to definitely make that type of situation work. For me, I think one would be we continue on at that 3 to 7% like we've already discussed, but maybe we put a hold on any future merit or COLA raises for the next 12 months until the policies can be evaluated.
I would agree with that.
Okay. And I would be good with that as well. As long
Okay.
as we kind of understood and we strengthened our policies,
Right.
given Matt the guidelines that he needs to do his job effectively, I think that would be.
Well, and I'm not sure, where do those guidelines come from now? Where are they?
What is what?
The guidelines, do the city create the guidelines for you as you are considering COLAs and merit increases?
Yes, it's in our employee handbook, the
Okay.
employee policies that the
So
council
you have
approves.
been using those policies as you've been doing this?
Yes, and pretty much what it says is a merit increase can be considered,
Right.
and then a COLA adjustment should be made every year based on CPI, other comparable cities. So it's very loose, and that's
Okay.
one thing that we could definitely do. I mean, there's I've just looked at several policies over the last month and a half, and it's very set up where here's the CPI, we agree on the CPI, here's the merit, you set it up on here. We don't have anything like that in a formula.
And I think that that's what we were looking to create
Mm-hmm.
in this whole theme. So I totally agree with you, Councilmember Swap, that this is something that we need to take a look at. I'm just questioning the timing before this year's budget deadline.
Understood. To that, though, if there was staff that have received raises in the last 12 to 18 months that may be in excess of what the market standard is, and we just gave them a 3 to 7% increase, I mean, that's not something I would ever feel good about taking back.
Oh,
But again,
no, yeah,
It's information that we don't have.
right. But
Typically,
you,
this is in Matt's realm to make these decisions, and it should be, but this particular raise, because of its size, is being put on us. So this is going against the council as far as the decision. I want to make sure that we make the decision effectively is all.
okay, but do you ever give raises in the middle of the year? Or are your raises, are they set with the fiscal year? Or is there another performance year, or there?
We generally do all raises with the fiscal year.
Right.
Now, there are a couple considerations. One of them is built into the employment agreements for building inspectors, that as they get certifications, there's a set increase they get for each certification they receive. And so that's like a 50-cent increase per hour based on each certification, but it brings value to the city on that.
And is that in our ordinances, or is that just a market thing?
Individual employment offer. So, and it's set because there's only so many certifications that they can receive. And so it's a pretty kind of predetermined and calculated.
So
aspect.
as we go through this for the year, we're not worrying about anybody getting a raise prematurely because you don't give them, you do that by the fiscal year. Is that what I'm understanding?
Generally, that's the,
With the exception of the
Yeah.
building inspectors and their
That's the rule.
certification. So if we made that, that point in the motion, would that be enough, Councilmember Swap, or do you think we need to go?
Can I cut in?
Sure. Come in.
Sorry. I just want to cut in, and it's hard to do on Zoom. I have to agree with Councilmember Swap in that we're giving an extensive raise this year when it's 3 to 7% across the board without merit, and it falls on the council's hands. I think that we have to have all of the information that we need to make that sort of decision instead of, I mean, it feels like it was sprung on us and we just have to make a decision without having any background information. So I have to agree with Councilmember Swap on this.
Okay, so what information are we going to get to make this decision? What is the information that will we say, okay, this one is okay, this one is okay, and is that okay for us to do when we do not have a current ordinance giving us that authority?
I think part of it is the health insurance amounts. I don't know.
And I
saw that.
totally agree with that. And I think that's something that really needs to be looked at in the future. I'm questioning whether what information we have and what we go through, I don't know. I don't see it in my head as having an ordinance that would allow us to do that. If we disagree, because it's a COLA, it's not a merit. If you agree that you want to give people merits, that's another thing. Are we saying that in addition to the COLA, we want to give merit and take a step now to do that before June 15th? Or are we saying we would take away COLAs from people that we did not deem their performance worthy for a COLA? What is our purpose of trying to get this done?
Okay, probably, let's ask Amy if there's any legalities to what we're talking about as well, so that we can understand that.
And I have some serious concerns about you guys getting involved with the reviews, like the specific reviews. Just because of the way that, like what Matt's job is and what you guys' job is. Matt is over the personnel. And so really what you guys need to be focused on is setting up a policy that Matt then implements. So, you know, it might be more possible if you go in that route of formulating a policy for how to distribute like merit, rather than focus on trying to look at everybody's reviews, because I don't think that that's appropriate, because if Matt's going to distribute those reviews to you, we're going to have a problem with it being distributing a private document into the public sphere.
And I don't think the review is something we need. And I think I touched on that in the email is I don't want to see the reviews, but that everybody on staff received a merit of at least 1% last year. It just brings into question, was there anybody that was not deserving of the merit but kind of got it as a blanket covering? If so, that's not the true definition of merit. Also, the cost of insurance that comes up every year, that is a raise as well if we are giving them that difference. So they're getting 3 raises every year potentially. And I think the cost of insurance should be offset by either COLA or merit to some extent.
And I totally agree with that. I totally believe that has to be the conversation for the future. But to do it retroactively now, I think is problematic.
Yeah, something else.
So if I'm hearing the city attorney correctly, basically it's not in our wheelhouse or purview to look at the individual specifically. That should be, I guess, the merit and the expectations should be set by the council, and then Matt would then implement it. And how do we know then that it's implemented correctly if we have no
Well, and I
information? That I'm just, because I don't understand how it works. I don't know. I'm just asking. I'm not saying that it would be. I'm not implying that Matt wouldn't do it correctly.
Well, I mean, that's what you've hired Matt for. He is over the personnel. He's the one who makes those decisions, those calls. I mean, frankly, you don't want to be over whether or not, specifically whether or not somebody gets a raise or not over the reviews. You just don't. It's sort of like why you guys don't have any power over whether or not I charge somebody with a crime. You don't want your neighbors coming and hitting you up for, oh, can't you fix this? You don't want the employees doing the same thing. You need Matt to be the bad guy. Sorry, Matt. But
Yeah,
really,
and
that's his. That's
I think
his
that's what I
job.
understood, to say. I'm just now thinking, okay, if that's the case, and we hear things or whatever, maybe somebody's not doing their job, do we just bring that concern up to Matt and
Yeah.
then,
So, I mean, I'm sure that there's been complaints about, certain individuals on a certain day not doing,
'cause I understand that, I can see where, that it's
that
important to
needs
keep
to-
some separation there, but.
But that needs to be brought up to Matt on like the day that it's reported to you guys. That needs to go directly to him so that he can deal with it and, get to the bottom of it. And then if necessary, come and report back to you. But,
Amy, do you think it's correct that we're even looking at this COLA raise as a council this year?
well, what do you mean correct?
Well, if it's historically the chief administrative official's job to do all the raises per individual, the fact that the council is weighing in on it this year because it's 3 to 7%, is that normal? I mean, are other municipalities doing the same thing, or maybe should we have not looked at this at all and just left it all with Matt?
Well, so I guess I see the COLA and the merit in two different categories. The merit is by definition based upon, performance. The COLA has nothing to do with performance. The COLA very much has to do with, inflation sucks, and you guys are making adjustments because the inflation sucks. That, I think, is very much a policy decision on your part as to, Matt has made recommendation with the budget, but then that's a policy decision, okay, are we gonna give a COLA? Are we going, and at what percentage? And like, everybody will get that, that percentage. When it comes to merit, I think you have a really good point as to, there does need to be an outline policy as to how a merit raise is given. What is the basis? And there's different municipalities that, will have that outlined very specifically, and they go through a process, and it's pretty easy sort of thing to follow. And so, I think that you're right with asking the questions. I just think that, policy, they're both policy questions, but policy questions in a different way. There's policy question of how do we want to take care of our employees, either with the health insurance, premiums, and then just the cost of living. And then how do we want to deal with a merit/performance raise, policy-wise, not we're going to look at, individuals, but leave the individual review to, Matt's discretion.
Yeah, I think that's where we got a little bit turned sideways, just because we don't want to look at individuals. We want to make a policy that basically touches every employee and in its order that we need to put it in. So yeah, we don't want to get involved with that. I would definitely recommend to the council we don't look at individualized anything. That shouldn't be anything that we get involved with. But the policy is, as stated even by Matt, it's loose and it needs to be fixed. So the question is, I think at this point, do we try and fix that before the budget, or do we try and, leave it as is and fix it another time? That's really probably where we're at with this site.
Well, I would suggest that Matt follow the ordinance for this year, and by changing the ordinance, we're retroactively making you change. Am I thinking correctly?
Well, and Councilmember Swap, I agree with you. There's a question on where the council steps in. You're the keepers of the budget. You're the one who set that. So as we come in, especially with this year, where it's such a monumental increase for based on CPI, we definitely need the council's input. In the future, what I would hope to do is have a good procedure that is equitable, fair, looks towards retention plus recruiting in an appropriate manner so we balance the whole compensation packet of insurance, retirement, all those things, so we can have that. And knowing that and setting up merit increases, we almost review that at the first of the year and say, things are looking good, we're okay with this. And here's where the CPI is falling. Okay, we're going to have to take a little bite on that. I mean, quite frankly, I'm doing a disservice to the employees doing a 753 when the CPI is 8.5. They're actually getting a docked, and I'm not giving them merit. So this is not Matt being loose with the purse strings. This is Matt saying, this is an extraordinary year. Let's keep it back, figure out a good policy, and move forward. And yes, you did receive a lot more information this year than you have in the past. The two Ryans can say, well, we didn't get anything last year, but and we can work on this. And we've got a few things that we need to tighten up in the personnel policy. It hasn't been opened up for years. There's a few things that we will need to consider, Juneteenth. They're interesting enough. I looked through it. We don't have a bereavement leave that I could find, but I couldn't find it. And these things we need to clean up and make it so it really, we take care of things in the right way.
Well, I just want to say I appreciate all the information that we've received.
I too.
I think it's awesome. Even though I wasn't here, there was a lot of work into that, and I appreciate that. I don't want to sound ungrateful or unappreciative of the job the employees do, but I think one thing that we don't really have an understanding on is, again, the insurance and how that compares. And so then it makes it, and maybe that's why you didn't ask for more of a COLA raise. But it's hard to make that decision on the COLA without, I guess, the accuracy there of knowing what those costs are.
When is our renewal for insurance, Matt? Is that with the fiscal year?
It's with the fiscal year.
So we already know the increase for next year?
We're tied in. It was a 5.8% increase.
Okay.
And that's something we haven't really went out to bid on our broker or comparable plans with health insurance. There's a lot of ways to skin the cat, and as I've done more research, about 26% of all municipalities with less than 50 employees provide full traditional, with full benefits or premiums paid. It's a recruitment thing, but 74% otherwise do other things, including offering traditional and high deductible. And there's tons of ways to do it. And like I said, as we look at it, we need to look at it, as I said, fair, equitable retention and recruitment, and make sure that we've got it set up where we're doing the best for the residents as well as for our employees.
I totally agree. I think that it needs to be looked at as a whole and figure out what we want to do, and then go forward as a whole and a policy, rather than trying to backtrack into what we think should happen this year.
Councilmember Call, do you have any thoughts on this? Pretty quiet.
It's my job to be quiet. Everybody just talks over me anyway. No, I'm always in favor of putting things together that governs you and that you follow, and that would be helpful to Matt too, to have that guideline. It's not just something that we want. I'm sure it's something that you would really appreciate having, you know.
I mean, it would have been easy for me to just come and say, we've got an 8.5% COLA adjustment, and I want 2 to 5% on top of that for merit. We'd been looking at 10.7 to 13.7.
And I think that that's where our reservation was, because we don't know what the insurance cost was in addition. So, I mean, basically, if you think that your insurance is going up through inflation, that should be considered as part of the compensation. So I think that's where we kind of got into it. Well, if you're getting a 2% insurance increase and a 7% COLA, then, that's actually 9. So I totally agree that everything needs to be laid out. We need to figure this out and move forward.
Did we lose Councilmember Morse? Do you have any other?
Well, I had a lot of comments, but every time I tried to say anything, we moved past it. So, and that's
Sorry.
on me for being on Zoom. So that's not on anybody else. But I still agree with Councilmember Swap in that I think, you know, if we can have whatever information we can have that is transparent to the council, obviously, I personally don't want any information on reviews. I don't think that's my place. I don't think that's any of our places. And I don't think that that's what Councilmember Swap was asking. And maybe I misread that. But I think that just having salary information is helpful in making decisions like this where we're being asked to give up to 7%. So I'm still in favor of getting the information we can have.
Okay, so I would ask again, what information would we have where we would say, this one's a yes and this one's a no? So, you know, within 2 weeks, what?
Kim, I'm not saying that I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna say this one's a yes and this one's a no. But when I'm being asked to give up to 7%, well, not 7% of the budget, but when I'm asked to give 7% raises without merit, I think I should at least get more background information of why that's necessary.
So what is it that you're looking for, Nina, to make that decision? What is the information that we can get that will make this decision easier?
Market value is one thing. Raises that they've received in the past, how this compares to previous raises is another thing.
We really can't go through what their raises have been in the past and give that. I mean, again, we struggle with, I mean, what their salary is right now. We can release that. The, you know, what raises they've received in the past, that's, again, it's a private, you know, that's a private document sort of thing.
So we can't, okay, can I cut in again? So we can't know what their salary was in 2019 and 2020 and 2021.
Well,
Because I could look that information up. It is available.
I mean, the problem though is that the whole whether or not they were given a merit raise, and then what, you know, we start to get into these weird gray areas as to if they were given a merit, what was it based on? Well, the only way to get it to understand what it was based on is to start seeing the reviews. I mean, you start down this slippery slope versus, I mean, wouldn't a better request be, we want a proposed policy regarding how the merit raises would be distributed, and, you know, even like, here's what the market is for some of these, with these jobs, but here's what the policy would be to distribute them. You know, a suggested policy that you guys could even vote on June 15th. Wouldn't that be a better approach to moving forward with it? Because that sort of thing can be that. Sorry, Nina, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I was interrupting you. Go ahead, Amy.
Because a policy could be provided to you guys before, you know, June 15th, and you guys can have that discussion and you can vote on it, you know, the same night that you do the budget. And it can be tweaked that night too, if you know, if we need to tweak some of the language or some of the factors that Matt should look at when it comes to giving the merit raises. I mean, that sort of thing is very viable to have that done. I know that Kim's concerned about, you know, timing wise, that could be done by June 15th.
Well, and I understand that, but since we didn't give merit raises this year, I'm not sure that's applicable to this year anyway. So, yeah, we can have a going forward, but since there is no merit increases, whether we think there should be or there shouldn't be, that's what I'm saying. Do we want a policy that's not really going to speak to, you know, to merit last year? It will speak to merit next year.
Well, that's,
I personally think that policy should have been in place a long time ago anyway. So I'm
I
not
agree with
opposed to
that.
seeing that. I'm not opposed to seeing that soon, even though it wouldn't be applicable to this year. I think that's a great idea to have that in place and something we can see, vote on, whatever we need to do to make sure we move forward with that.
I think what you just said is that it could be voted on and implemented for next year, a merit type policy.
policy, yeah.
But do we want to take some time and decide what we want it to be, or do we want to figure it out and vote on it on the 15th? I mean, if we're going to take this out and look at it wholly, and insurance and merit and the whole thing,
Yeah, I
Why would we
understand
wanna
that we
rush
want to take more time, but we could always amend it. It would be nice to have some policy in place of merit going forward to incentivize employees to do a really good job. Even if it's not perfect.
We do
by
have a
June.
policy
I mean,
that allows merit. I've just decided not to do it because of the substantial
right,
increase this year.
but it sounds like it needs to be defined more is what I'm hearing.
Definitely. I'd welcome that. And just as far as information, I mean, we did provide the chart of positions, has salary ranges for all positions in the city for this year and last year. So you do see some adjustment on those based on the increases. We didn't include the comparables from other cities. That's available. Problem is the classifications, making sure it's apples to apples, pretty close on it, but not quite. That shows about 75% of our employment group underneath the market level substantially. And so those things we can do, and it's just, unfortunately, one of the things that I have is I get questions about specific employees. Did they get this? And if so, why are we giving them this? Well, cost of living increase shouldn't take any kind of merit into consideration. It's just the cost of doing business, and this is what's hitting your employees. And so when we talk about 753, COLA should just be a straight number. This is how much costs have went up in the world today, and we're wanting to make sure our employees don't leave or aren't unduly impacted. And usually municipalities really grind down on the COLA increases if they're having budgetary shortfalls. That's not our case. $1.3 million into reserve funds. And so this is not specifically a financial discussion, a financial hardship. This is just doing it right and doing that. I would advocate for right now, we have a reduced increase for all employees. The 753, I would request that the council let us go with that. And while I understand the desire for information, rather than doing a quick dash on that, let's just take a little bit of time over the next 6 months and have this all in place by January 1st, so that as we go under the budgetary determinations for next year, we roll it out. This is just part of the things about becoming a big city and taking the professional aspect of it. We've got a lot of policies and procedures that we need to fine tune and do it. And this is one of those aspects that is loose and is not well defined in our personnel policy manual.
So I think we need to decide as a council. Go ahead, Nina.
I was just going to ask Councilmember Swap if any of this discussion has changed his request at all.
Yes and no. So I think we see that there is a combined increase in wages for the entire city this year of 8.8%, 10.8%, and 12.8%. I do not know what the normal percentage range is. I mean, during the Obama years, we had double-digit increases on health insurance here. This year, it's only 5.8%, and we're giving that all to the employee. So I think those are some pretty good annual raise percentages right there. I still want to see additional information as far as how to build the policy and make sure it definitely speaks towards health insurance, COLA, and merit. But knowing the 8.8 to 12.8, I still would be okay with that going forward as long as we put a freeze on all future raises for 12 months or until the policy was perfected and approved by the council.
So that would be everything except for the certification raises.
Correct.
Okay.
So I think what we have, from what I'm hearing, is we either have the council move forward with where we stand today, or we have direction with at least, the majority looking to try and do something before June 15th. So I think that's the question that we have at this point.
I don't think I want to ramrod a policy through without making sure we have enough information. I think approving the 3, 5, and 7 with the 5.8% on the health insurance, I think I'm okay with that now, and I think I want to take the time and make sure that policy's set correctly.
With the added of no raises until we get the policy done.
Correct.
Okay,
That's my take. I don't know how you guys feel.
any other comments?
I'm good with that as well.
That's fine with me. Matt had already said he's not doing merit raises for the year, so I don't think we have to worry about that. If you wanted it to be in writing, I guess, but they're not receiving those, so.
So is this a motion to not, or just,
It was just,
Well, it's
just
to-
nothing?
It's a motion to have an audit. That's what it
It
is.
sounds like we don't need to do anything if we're not going to ask for anything before June 15th, because as Councilmember Call pointed out, there aren't merit raises slated. Is that correct, or is that a decision that
well, I don't think
Still
there's a
could be
policy
made.
that prevents it from happening in 12 months.
So that would be the action.
No.
I don't think we need action. I think, in my
We could
opinion,
just
we
let
need to
it
set
go.
up a committee to start working on this policy. Is that what you would think, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the motion for an audit, I mean, that's what I was just putting on for the table. I mean, we don't even need to vote on that. If we wanted to take any action for a committee, the only thing I'd ask for is that we'd hold off on consideration or at least action on that until after July 1st, just because we've got the codification, West Haven Days, and a couple of other things that I'm working through that it's going to be a very busy June for my side.
Okay, so sounds like we've got a majority that want to just stay the way it is. We'll make some changes in the future on this, is that correct? So no action will be taken on item number 4. Okay? All right, I think that concludes everything. We'll move to item 6, I guess, unless anybody has anything else before we adjourn. We'll
Move to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Was that Nina, did you just vote to not adjourn?
Thank you.
I said aye.
Okay.